What's up, YouTube? Okay, let's talk about some more college stuff. I got a question, and the question was, um, how do you know what school to choose uh, to go to for your undergraduate degree? So for your BA or your BS, what type of school should you go to? To be honest with you, there is no you should go here, you shouldn't go there. A lot of it has to do with several factors. To me, the biggest one is who's funding your college education, right? If your parents, have money and paying for your tuition isn't an issue, well, obviously you have more luxuries, you have more choice. But if you know that your college is going to be funded through financial aid and loans and out of your own pocket, um, then you have to be more so mindful of the cost of attendance in terms of where you're going. You really do. And for most people, we don't come from, even if you're white, you're not coming from a home where mommy and daddy can cut your tuition check. You've never really had to go to the financial aid office, and you've never had any issues with them. Last time I checked, uh, or even when I was an undergrad, I would go to the financial aid office and I saw everybody there. Asians, whites, Indians. So this wasn't black people and Mexican people complaining about how they can't pay for college, right? Everybody was in there sobbing, people crying, people yelling on the phone. I mean, you'd be amazed at what you saw there. And from who? Right? Ming Su crying on the phone, right? Because, she couldn't get this or that paid for or whatnot. And she wasn't eligible for that grant or, so I'm like, wow, right? So a lot of people, the vast majority, aren't coming from homes where they never had to see the financial aid office and they never had to do the whole filing for financial aid and filling out the FAFSA. That's far and few. Um, Now, with that being said, you do have to be mindful of the cost of where you go. I believe that in terms of your undergraduate degree, now this is only my opinion, right? But I'm giving you my professional opinion. I believe that you should save more money, right? And go to a school that's relatively cheaper because now the name of the game is what you're doing after graduation. Going to law school, med school, grad school. Most people know that if they want to be even that more competitive, they have to go on and get the advanced degree, right? So for me, my philosophy is go to a cheaper school, save money, right? Kick ass. Don't have fun, right? Get your 4.0, get everything together, like buckle down hard, right? Um, and then when you're ready to go to your graduate school or law school or med school, you can then worry about going to the school that is the highest up on the list. And obviously you're going to pay a little bit more money, but it's better to spend money for your advanced degree because that's the one that really matters as opposed to your undergraduate degree where it's just going to be trumped by where you got your advanced degree from anyways, right? That's what they're going to be looking at. Your selling point isn't going to be where you got your BA or your BS. Your selling point is going to be where you got your master's or where you got your law degree or where you got your uh, doctorate or whatever, whatever. They have unique names, but that's what's going to sell you at the end of the day, right? So splurging on undergrad isn't recommended. Like I said, if you have the financial ability to go to a more prestigious sort of university, then by all means do it, right? But if you don't, it's not the end of the day. Even if I did have a little bit of money and my parents did, it would be a waste of time to spend all that money knowing that I'm just going to go for an advanced degree afterwards, and that's going to trump what I'm doing for undergrad. It would be a waste of time and money in my professional opinion. And I've told this to people before who actually did have the money, right? Like I said on the side, I consult with different families and, we work on stuff like this. And I've told them, like, listen, you guys do have some money saved up, but, I mean, You don't necessarily have to use it all right now because it's not like it was before. Yes, maybe a decade ago, 20, 30 years ago, you could graduate with your BA or your BS and you were set. You know, you didn't really have to go off and worry about getting an advanced degree unless you were trying to be a lawyer or a doctor or whatnot. Um, so it was more important to make sure that you got into the best school possible for your undergraduate. But now we live in a world where times have changed. Really, they have. Um, but obviously, there are pros and cons. I'm not going to lie to you. There's pros and there's cons. The cheaper school is not going to have the same level of prestige. That's why I said you have to kick ass, right? The 3.0 at the state school, right, isn't going to be the same as the 3.0 from Yale or from Stanford, right? So that is what it is. Schools are about reputation, right? So the cheaper schools are not going to have the same sort of reputation as the larger school. So you have to kick ass because whatever grade you're going to get from the prestigious school, right, it's almost going to be added extra points because of where it is, right? So the fact that I said I went to Yale, some people are going to be sold simply because I went to Yale, as opposed to me going to a state school and I got a 4.0, and people are still going to say, well, you know, let's still look closely. But if I'm coming through and saying, yes, I went to this Ivy League school and here's what I did, and they're going to, some people will be impressed, not knowing that you were a slacker and you really, you only had like a low-ass GPA, that you're going to be awarded points. So that is a definite con, right? I'm not even going to lie. So if you are going to cut back and save money, you have to haul ass. You have to be on top of your game, right? Even with my little sister. With her, she's taking my advice. We've sat down and we've made the choice that it would be better for her to go to a school where it was cheaper. Right? There's no point in making the same mistake that I made, my brother made, or my sister made in regards to going to a school for undergrad and paying more money, only then to go on to graduate school, right? Um, and pay even, more money and not really have the undergraduate degree really count for anything. So we're like, no, there's no point in doing what we did, right? There's no point in making that mistake. So we've told her, like, listen, we're going to go this route. Trust me, you're going to save a whole lot more money. But you have to make sure you're on top of your game so that when you are done and you graduated, you can then look at some of the other higher upper echelon sort of schools. And then you don't have to worry about, well, money, this. No, you can go anywhere you want to go. If you want to go to Ivy League, go to Ivy League. So, like I said, that is a con that it's not going anywhere. Another con, your more prestigious schools, okay, tend to be smaller, right? For me, my graduate school is a smaller university, and there's perks to that when you go to a smaller school. People know you by first name, so it's harder for you to fall between the cracks. You know your professors personally, and that goes a long way in terms of accountability. It's hard to fail a class or be lost in the masses of other, students when everybody knows everybody, right? And for those who have went to a larger public sort of school and those who have went to a private institution, they can tell you there's a big difference. Obviously, there's pros and cons because the private school is going to be more, but usually there's a better quality of service because it's smaller, everybody knows who you are, so it's hard to fail. But when you go to a larger school, which is going to be cheaper, it's easy to fall between the cracks. Now you're in rooms where there's 500 people as opposed to some small classroom where there's maybe 40, 30 people and everybody kind of knows everybody. But, you're in some big-ass lecture hall and it doesn't matter if you're there or not. No one's going to miss you. You're nothing more than a student ID number, right? You'll go to some sort of administrative office and they don't even say, hey, hi, hello, what's your first name? And say, what's your, number, right? They don't even say hi to you, right? So it's easy to fall off and no one's going to recognize you. Honestly, no one will recognize you at all, right? And that is very dangerous, obviously, especially for African American students. It's easy to just get caught up and fall off and no one ever knows. It's like drowning in a pool of, it's like drowning in a highly crowded pool and nobody knows that you're drowning, right? As opposed to a pool with a small amount of people where, if they don't see you, hey, where are they? Where'd they go? Right? Um, and so that is another con that I'm not going to lie to you. But, I mean, there's different things you can do, obviously. And a lot of the larger universities, they're trying to become more competitive, so they're trying to stop that, right? I'm working with actually the university that I went to undergrad with, and, we're trying to do some things to prevent um, the high dropout rate, because that is something that is more so prone to happen in a larger school as opposed to a smaller private institution. So that, like I said, that is the con that one does have to factor in. But at the end of the day, like I said, in my professional opinion, it's definitely better to go to the cheaper school for undergrad. Okay, yeah, it's not going to have the same level of prestige, but if you kick ass and you do well, so you perform in the classroom, you get the experience, you do your internships, or you rack up actual work experience and do your little internships, you will be in a good competitive standpoint to then go on and apply for those sort of advanced degree programs that are at those more so top-notch upper echelon sort of universities, honestly. Um, it's unfair, I know, because you'll have kids who can afford to go to the upper echelon school for undergrad because mommy and daddy are paying for it, and they slack off, but yet they can still reap the benefits of the reputation. It is what it is, right? I've talked to not just black people. I've talked to people, Indian, white, you name it, that has been to Stanford, Yale, people that I went to high school with, and at Cornell and all these universities, and they've said, man, there's a lot of people who are there who don't deserve to be there. But unfortunately, they're going to get good paying jobs. They're going to get considered simply because of the school that they went to, simply because the fact that their hoodie says Yale on it, right? And they're not even going to look at their GPA or what they've actually done and all the times they've been on academic probation, right? So it's true. It's unfair. But like I said, you have to do what works for you. Really, you have to do what works for you, because there's no point in trying to go to a uh, prestigious school that you really can't afford, and you're struggling to worry about payments, and your grades suffer, and it turns nasty and ugly. And I've seen it happen. I've seen people who got caught up in the allure, right? Um, I got into Yale. I got into this big time school. Mom's happy, parents are happy. They get there, the first quarter is cool, but when those bills start coming, right, they start coming, and all of a sudden it turns ugly. Seen it happen, right? Or when the other non-related expenses come up, right? Stuff really starts to get ugly, right? Um, so it is what it is, honestly. So, with that being said, hopefully that helps anybody out there who has to make that sort of choice, or people who may even be considering transferring, right? Just because you may be at a expensive institution now doesn't mean that you can't transfer and get yourself out of that position, right? So it is what it is. So if anybody has any more questions, you can holler. We can just take it from there. Y'all be easy. God bless.